Hello and welcome to Tim's BMW repairs and information. And this episode's all about changing the windscreen washer pump on a 1 Series BMW. And in this case my daughter's F21 118i M Sport. Now I didn't record the start of this procedure because I thought it was only going to take a few minutes and it really didn't merit me doing a video of it. So I've done them before on other BMWs. On my 8 Series it takes about 10 minutes. On the E38 it takes a bit longer because you have to get the wheel off and the wheel liner out, but then the pump's there. So I thought that's probably what's going to happen with my daughter's car. So I took the wheel off, I took a wheel liner off and then realised that you can't get to the washer pump at all. It's absolutely impossible to get to it. So I started recording once I got to the point where I knew how to get the water tank out, the windscreen washer reservoir out, which has got 3 pumps on. The high pressure pump, that's for the windscreen headlight washers. Standard pump for the rear windscreen and the front windscreen. And this here's the level sensor. This detects if you're short of washer fluid. You can't get to any of the pumps until you get the tank out of the car, or at least out of the wing, because that's where it lives. It lives right in the front wing of the car. And it's very thin as well. It's only about that thin, and it slides right into the wing, and the pumps are all on the face of it, so you don't see them at all. Now, it took me that afternoon and the next morning to actually do the job, mainly because I was trying to video record it. But it can really only take you about 40 minutes, I put it at, once you know all the tricks. And there are a few tricks to changing the washer pump. And I'll go through all of those tricks as we go along. And although it seems like there's quite a few bits you have to take off the car, I only ended up with a big pile of them towards the back of the garden. They're quite easy to remove and it doesn't take you long to do it. And don't try and skip little stages by keeping some of the bits in, because you really have to take all the bits out that I took out to do it. Now, as I said, I took a long time videoing it because it's very difficult to video the washer tank itself coming out of the car and how it fits in the car. So what we'll do is I'll draw a diagram of how the washer tank fits in the car, in the wing, and how it goes up and then it tilts over and comes out, because it was nigh impossible to video. And then we can go through all the fixings we have to remove to get the liner out and the wheel out, and the safe way to get a front wheel off without trying to lift the whole side of a car with a jack, because that is very dangerous and something I don't do anymore, because I have had a car come off the jack and it's extremely dangerous. And you can use axle stands, but it's a much more easy way of doing it and a lot safer way of doing it, just by using a single ramp, which is what I use. And that takes all the weight off that side of the car. But we'll go through that as we go along. Anyway, let's, before I start showing the video of removing the tank and changing the pump and all the rest of it, by the way, the pumps are very cheap. I think they're only about 15 quid, about $20 or so. And so it's a very cheap part, and it's a very easy one to pop out of the tank. And there's a quick release fixing on it as well. You don't need a Jubilee clip or a hose clamp on it or anything like that. It's got a multiple use clip on it that just unclips, pops out the pipe, put the new pump in, pop the new pipe in. So it's very easy, but very difficult to video. So the first thing we'll do is I'll do a drawing of it, and then at least you know what I'm talking about. Right, let's get on with it. Right, let's draw the front wheel. Here's the front wheel of the car. I'm very good at drawing. And let's show the wing of the car. So we're looking at the right hand side of the car. So there's the front wing, goes off to the front, and we've got the bonnet coming along here like this. Looks lovely, yeah. And yeah, where the washer tank lives is in here, this part here. So we've got an outer wing and we've got an inner wing, and it's about a 2-inch gap from the inner to the outer. So the tank has to fit in there. Now, if I draw the tank, you'll understand quite what's going on. Rightio, it's got a little lip at the front where a bolt goes through, and then it's got a curve down like this.
got a flat bit at the bottom, comes down, has a lump that sticks out of the side, which I've exaggerated a bit, and a lump that comes out the bottom, which is L-shaped, and a pin behind it. And on there, the 3 pumps. So we've got 3 pumps here. That's the main wash pump, this one here, number 1. That's the rear windscreen wash pump, number 2. That's the high pressure washer pump. So we could draw them in as oblongs, look a bit better. And around here somewhere, there's the level switch that tells you when you're running short of fluid. And to connect that to the car, it has a pipe that comes out the back of it, which you can't see, which goes to the filler cap. And then we've got a whole bunch of looms that come off of these motors and the level sensor and goes to a loom that then goes into the underside of the wing. So yeah, there's no reason to disconnect any of these looms either. They might as well all stay in place. Okay, so this is where it's going to sit. And what we've got is we've got a metal bracket here, which when we look at it from the side, it looks like this. So there's the inner wing, there's the outer wing about there. It's got a hole in it here that this L-shaped doofer fits into. And then further up, it's got another bracket which looks like this, has a little sort of bit in it like that this bit slots into. So this is looking backwards into the wing, and this is looking straight into the wing. So all we can see from here is this bent metal bracket like that. And that bent metal bracket goes into there, and these little bits in here go into this bit. So with the tank in place, it looks something like this. So it's got that curve round like that. Sits on that one. Sticky outy bit sticks on that. So there's your washer tank with the 3 doofers on it. And it's got a pipe that comes out and goes round to the filler cap. And the filler cap, I'll draw it when looking on from the top. So the filler cap looks like this. And on this side, it has a self-tapping, well, it's a rivet with a self-tapping screw in it. It's a metal screw. And you can use a Phillips type screwdriver to remove that screw. This end, it's got a little tab which fits into the metalwork of the car. And then it has all part of this plastic structure. It has a pipe that comes out, and the pipe that runs to the tank goes across like that. And it's sort of a ribbed pipe at this point here. And we have to take that off of the filler, which is sitting in there. Okay, so when we're removing the tank, here's the trick. So I'll draw it out again. That's gone all the way through the paper. So draw it a bit bigger this time. So here's the wheel. Here's the wing. Here's where the tank's sitting. And we've got a bracket coming out of here, like this. And we've got another bracket here. And we've got the tank with the lump sticking out of it there, going down. It's got this L-shaped thing that goes into this bracket here. Goes along like this. And at this point here, it's got a little hole in it where there's a screw going through it. I think I've got all of it here. So that's it. So the tank itself, with its 3 pumps here and its loom, is actually only fastened in one place. It has a bolt here which goes up through to some metalwork inside the bonnet area. And the way that it comes out is you unscrew this bolt, and then what you have to do is you have to lift the tank up slightly until this L-shaped bit hits the bottom of that bracket. Now let's have a look at that bracket from the side again. So here's the bracket from the side, inner wing there. We've got this L-shaped thing coming down. So all you see from the front, it looks a bit like that. And you can't really tell what that is just by looking at it, because it's very difficult to look in the wing at that point. But that comes up. This unlocates, that's not a word, but you know what I mean, from this bent bracket here, which looks like this. There's a bent bracket there. Here's the outer wing, here's the inner wing. And we lift it up slightly, that dislocates from that point, and then the whole tank goes forward like that, and then that L-shaped bit comes out, and you can actually get the tank out. Now, as I said, it's very difficult to video this, and but I've had a go, so we should have a good view of these bits here as well, so you know what they look like. So you can imagine from this scenario that we have to remove the wheel, we have to remove the wheel liner, and it's in two pieces. There's one bit there and there's one bit there, and you can't do it without removing both of those. You have to remove that screw, and then you have to remove the filler pipe, as we've discussed earlier, and 3 bits of plastic in the bonnet area in the engine bay. But we'll go through all of those. But the difficult bit is this little trick of lifting it up slightly and bending it over. And slightly harder again is getting the thing back in again, because once you change the pump and you try to put it back in, you'll locate this L-shaped bit, but this tab might be hitting here or here, and of course it won't slot in. We seeing that? Yeah, we're still seeing that. That's good. Yeah, it won't hit. It might hit there or it might hit there, and it won't slot in. So it's really a case of getting in the wing and waggling the tank around until that slots into this bit here. And once that's slotted into that bit there and the L-shaped bit has gone into here, then the tank will finally settle down and you can get this bolt back in. So if you get it to that point and the bolt doesn't go back in, there's a gap of about 1 inch between that and the hole that's above it, then you can be sure you haven't got this tab in. And it's that tab which is very awkward to get back in when you're trying to put the tank back in. And I've had 10 goes at doing this until I realised it was this back tab. And then I realised you had to wiggle it about, lift it up slightly, lift it up and down, and then drop it back in. So, to brace see that, getting it out, undo the bolt, lifts up slightly so this dislocates from that bracket here, and then the whole thing can start going forward, and then you lift it up a bit more so this L-shaped bit of plastic pops out of that bracket there. And when it goes back in, you locate that one, whole thing slides back in, and then you waggle the back of the tank around, which isn't easy because you can't get to it, until that lump slots into that bracket. That's the difficult bit. So as long as we got some idea that's how it works, then you're going to have very little problem. The rest of it is just sort of dog work of removing all the fasteners that hold on the wheel liner. And I think there's 15 of them, if not more. There's quite a few this side. And of course the wheel liner goes in behind where the wheel goes. There's a lot down there and there's a few underneath. And just to sort of throw you off the scent, they're not all 8mm, because most of them are 8mm self-tappers. Now there's a couple which are Torx, and very wide, flat mushroom head ones as well. So you need a Torx set, and you need just socket set to get the 8mm ones off. And a screwdriver, that's really about it. And then removing the pump is very simple. It just comes forward. We disconnect the pipe, we put the new one, we disconnect the connector, connect it to the new one, put it back in, click on the connector, and that's it, you're done. But that's the tricky bit. So as long as you realise there's going to be a slight trickiness, but once you've done it once, you can do it in 5 minutes. Rightio, let's get to the video.
Hello and welcome to Timms.BMW Repairs and Information. Well, this is my daughter's 118i M Sport. It's got a simple problem. The windscreen washer pump has stopped working. Yeah, and on my 8 Series, that would take me about half an hour at the very most. But on this, it's taken hours to actually work out what is actually wrong with it. You wouldn't believe the amount of plastic that has to come off this car until you can actually get to the windscreen washer reservoir to start with, let alone get to the pump. But what we'll do is we'll go through absolutely everything that we need to do to get to the washer pump, how to replace it, where to find a replacement, and how to stick it all back together again. Right, well, the first thing we have to do is get it up on a ramp. Yeah, it might seem ridiculous we have to get it on a ramp, but that makes it a lot easier to get the front wheel off.
takes all the pressure off the front wheel and makes it much safer to get the wheel off. Right, okay, so replacing the washer pump, let's go through everything we need to remove and just do a précis of everything. Right, first thing comes off is this cover. I found that we just need to lift it up here, pull it backwards and it's off. It does actually have 3/4 turn fixings, but they don't seem to do any good at all. Next, this rubber bit comes off. It just pulls off here and is held on by a single blind rivet here. And this needs to come off, 3 blind rivets. That will lift off. And then we get to the reservoir cap. That's held on by a single Torx, well, it's a Phillips. It is actually a blind rivet, but if you turn it anti-clockwise, it comes undone. Takes the washer with it. And then what you can do is you can lift this end of it and it'll come out of the clip at the back. Obviously a lot easier to see without all this stuff in the way. Then what we do is twiddle this off here. So this is then detached from the filler pipe. Okay, so that's just about all you need to do from the top surface. Apart from threading this filler pipe through the bracketry, because there's some bracketry in here which gets in the way. And from here we can actually see the tank, and we can see the way that this pipe is guided through it with a little plastic guide and all the rest of it. And we can see the fixing for it here. Trying to focus you in on that. Yeah, there's a fixing for it there which is done from underneath. Okay, and you would have thought at that point it's quite easy. No, it's not, because unfortunately then all the wheel liners have to come off. Obviously the wheel has to come off first, and there are a lot of fixings. There's 14 on the back, and I think there was 10 on the front. Go around all of those. And then, oh yeah, and of course the blind rivets here, and you've got to poke those through and then retrieve the stalks afterwards or use new ones. So yeah, 14 fixings on this side of various types. Plastic nut, metal bolt 8mm, captive washer. And then there's a couple of Torx as well, just to mix it up a bit. So yeah, both wheel arches off. So the front wheel arch comes off first, so wheel arch liner comes off first, then the back one, and then we can get to the tank, and then it's not too hard with the wheel off and to lean it forwards, and then getting it back in isn't quite so easy. Rightio, that's the précis of that. Not a job I'd like to do again, to be honest. Right, not many tools needed for the job, well, apart from the tools to get the wheel off, obviously, and a jack and a ramp's always handy. So this is what we need: T25 Torx, pair of side cutters, 8mm and 10mm hex bits, and that's about it really. I think about the only other thing I needed was a Phillips screwdriver. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's your lot. 10 of those self-tapping 8mm bolts with captive washers. That's your lot. So this is where we'd start when we start trying to get the washer pump out, is we'd start right on all of these, get those 10 8mm bolts out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. So to remove that, as it really is just a case of manhandling these things out. It always is the same with wheel liners, I'm afraid. They just have to be bent into place. You have to put a bit of effort into them. 2 8mm self tapping bolts with captive washers. That's a Torx, metal Torx, blue Loctite on it. And then 1, 2, 3 8mm captive washers, and then a plastic Torx under here just for a change. Then we got 3 plastic nuts, 1, 2 and 3. 3 blind rivets, 1, 2 and 3, and another 8mm up there. And that's your lot, and those 2 at the top aren't fitted yet. Right, well, first of all, there's the fog light. That's the back of the fog light. Looks the same as on lots of different models. This pipe work here is the high pressure headlight washer, and this car has a high pressure pump just for that. And that's the brake duct, so that pushes air from the front of the car onto the brakes. It does seem to be full up of stuff, so I'm going to have to wash that all out before I've put all the bits back on again. Then up there, that's an earth point, so that's the ground connection for a lot of things. On older cars, this can be a problem because the metal corrodes and then you don't get a good ground connection, and you get all sorts of weird electrical problems. Not a problem on a car that's only 10 years old, like my 6 Series over there. And for this car, which is 7 years old yet, that won't be a problem at all. Anyway, that's great. Have a good quick look around. It all looks rather nice in here. Yeah, it doesn't look bad at all. Right, looking backwards, there's the water reservoir. It's a big one, because, well, it's high because it's very thin. And these are all that's the cabling to it. And you can't get to the pumps without taking the tank out, which is a bit of a palaver. So the tank goes all the way from down here, which is close to the skirt of the car, goes right up to the top of the wing, and there's a single fixing up there which I've removed. I've had this all out before to check that it was the washer pump that failed and make sure I get the right washer pump. It's got a funny old connecting system. It's got down here, we've got a plastic, and it's slightly L-shaped, this, and this won't come out of this metal bracket just by lifting it upwards. It has to come out at an angle. So this device here, the reservoir is held on, it sits on this metal bracket here with this L-shaped bit going through it and that dowel behind it. And at the back, right at about this part of the wing here, probably a bit further up, by the M badge I should think, there's a piece of metal with a slot in it like that, and there's this, the reservoir has a little bit of plastic that drops into that slot, and at the same time you've got to thread through the filler pipe and then obviously refit that. So getting it out, not too difficult as long as you know how to do it. Getting it back in, I've tried and tried to get that back in, and about 10 attempts, and I got it on the 10th attempt. But at least I know what to do now. So there we go. Right, let's get the bonnet open next. Move the rubber bit here and the bit over the engine, bit over the brake master cylinder and booster there, and the electrical contacts and the B plus post as well. So a bit of plastic missing from that, but I'll be showing you that. Bit of rubber removed from that, and another bit of plastic removed from up here as well, which screws into these holes. And also what I've done is I've removed the filler. So this is the pipe which goes to the reservoir. That would usually go to a filler. So comes down, it's got a single bolt at the top, and then it comes down from the top, and at the same time as coming down, you've got to get the filler hose through the hole in the top of the wing, which I'll do now. There we go. It just loves getting yourself stuck there, that's the trouble. There we go. Right, so filler pipe's out of the way, whole tank drops down, that far and then out. There we go. And then we've got access to all the pumps. Here we go, that's the reservoir. We can see everything now. Darn sight easy to move around with very little washer fluid in it, but of course when the washer pump fails, it's usually full right to the top, which this one was, and it was very heavy to move. So once I got it into this position, I disconnected the pump, removed the pump, which just pulls out, and then put a bucket underneath it and caught all the fluid. So now it's only got a tiny amount of fluid in it, and I've bunged it up with a bit from my socket set just to stop it coming out. Right, so that's good. So we've got the high pressure pump, that's for the windscreen headlight washers, standard pump for the rear windscreen and the front windscreen, and this here's the level sensor. This detects if you're short of washer fluid. Right, so the next thing we'll do is we're going to check that that pump fits in here nicely. So let's give that a go. Right, here's a new pump, 10 quid from Amazon, can't complain about that. Right, we're going to lose a bit of fluid. Let's just take this off. And we'll put that straight in, hopefully to block it off a bit. There we go, that stopped him leaking everywhere. And then just push in until it clicks. There we go, that's clicked into position. Click him back in there, he's in. Connector on. Right, he's on. Right, better check that works before I do anything else. Right. Excellent. Right, I'm going to attempt to put it back in again for the 100th time. There we go. Bottom one bit, it's got to fit in its bracket while it's still at quite an angle, because it doesn't fit in the bracket until it's at this angle. And then what we do is we thread the filler tube up through the wing and behind a little press steel bracket. Just check the bottom's in. Yeah, the bottom's still in fine. That's very important. If that's not fully slotted in, then it's never going to go in. Right, I'm going to raise it up. Right, okay, and then we get to the same place where the whole reservoir's gone back in, but it won't push up. So what we have to do now is grab hold of the tank as best as we can. We can flap the back of it backwards and forwards, or left to right, until it goes in the slot. So here we go, without pulling the bottom bit back out. Slightly out. Slide, that's it, that's in its slot now. Actually saw it go into the slot, and now we can fit the bolt at the top. There we go. Well, I think I've got the hang of it now. I've done it, that's the third time I've got it back in again. So yeah, that all seems straightforward. The trick is to get the bottom dowel into the press metal with a spot welded little wet metal bracket here, and it has to go fully in. Then as it lifts up, guide the filler tube into the wing, and then it will get to a point where it won't go any further, and it won't reach the bolt hole. So what you have to do then is bring it back slightly, move the tank either inwards or outwards, do it again until it clips into place, and there we go, that's in. Right, good as place as any to start on the reassembly is to fit this bolt at the top. At least the tank's not going to start falling back out again. So get him, he looks like an 8mm to me. So that's gone in from up there. There's the bolt, that's the reservoir. We'll do him up first. Stop the tank flopping back out again. There we go. It's nice and tight. And as always with wheel liners, it's just a case of poking it back into the right place
and a whole bunch of fixings. How many we got? We've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 fixings just for this. That's really crazy. So let's sort of manhandle it into position. I mean, it didn't really want to come out much, and I doubt if it's going to want to go back in either. But we'll give it a go. This must have looked great on a computer, but in real life, it's just pig awkward to get back in again. Got 3 blind rivets up here. When you remove them, here's the blind rivets, let's check the camera's on first. Camera's running. Yeah, when you remove them, the rivet is flush with the head, and you just use a small screwdriver to push the blind rivet all the way through, and that will open up the rivet. You can retrieve the stems of them, or you can buy new ones. Usually easier to buy new ones, but bit of luck, I found all of those. Right, off we go again. Let's try and get it into position for a second time. There's sort of various bits and bobs you don't want to knock off. Yeah, it's getting more or less in the right place. Of course, that's all we've got on the inside. And then we've got the blind rivets here. Oh yeah, that's got to go on the inside as well. So yeah, manhandling is the way to go forwards. The same as when I took it apart. Just sort of give everything a good old shove. Right, unfortunately I don't think we're going to see a great deal here, even with the lights on. We've got some little plastic nuts. That looks like, is that an 8 this time? That's a 10mm. 10mm sort of self-tapping nuts, so there's tiny little studs sticking out here and there and everywhere. So they go over those and screw on. There's a few studs like that. Just look around until you find them all. Right here, it was getting dark here as well. Yeah, there's this weird bit here which is all sorts of rivets in it. Got one fitting there, up here, which we've got to get in, and there's 1 or 2 underneath here. You can see they go through from the bottom, and that one up there, that's a metal one. So I'll find that. Right, bolts are in. Sorry, it's just too awkward to try and do them up and hold the camera at the same time because the tripod's too big to get under here. So yeah, 2 8mm self-tapping bolts with captive washers go up there. So there we go, that's those 2, and they are located just underneath this sort of rivety bit. Right, so that's about it. We've got a couple more to go in around here. Get the camera in. There we go, there's one to go just up there. So that'll be another 8mm. There we go. Excellent. Right, last look round. So that's those 2 done from underneath there. That's a Torx with the Loctite on it. Quite tight, quite difficult to get off, that one was. Bolt here, self-tapper 8mm. Self-tapping nuts, they're 10mm. 3 of those. And we do those ones up there when it's got the other half of the wheel lining in. And then we've got a couple underneath here. Remember rightly, yeah, there's 1, 2, and I think there's a third one round the corner.
again, I think I'll put them in and then show you what they look like later. In next is the front wheel arch. Oh, sorry, wheel liner. I'm sure that's going to be just as much fun as the rest of it. They're nearly all self-tapping 8mm bolts with captive washers. So it's just really a case of offering it up. And I remember one of the first bits I had to get through was getting this round the brake duct. So that was a bit awkward. Rightio, so there's the cover for the brake duct, clips over the top, and then it'll be an 8mm bolt there. Well, these got to go through both of the liners. There you go, there's a couple there. One there, and one up there. Thought that one wasn't going for a minute. A bit of a funny angle. There we go, that's better. We're done. Right, this is the first bit to go back on. Plastic infill part goes round the back here. Settles itself down here and round the reservoir pipe. Like that. And 3 blind rivets is what held that together. Make sure it all lined up and gone in the right places. It does seem to have. Right. One in. Number 2. Number 3. And to get these off, you just used a pair of side cutters. I'll show you what I mean. Right, pair of these. Obviously don't snip them, because yeah, break them. But you just need to get round them like this, lift them up slightly, and then pull them, and that's out, and then the rivet itself will come out. Simple as that. We seem to have a blind rivet there as well. Then we got this bit here, sort of sealy sort of bit. It goes round that way, and then we've got a blind rivet that holds that in position. So yeah, I think it's quite important you get all these rubbery bits around the right way. That looks fine, same as the one on the other side. Final blind rivet in here. There we go. Make sure that's all down flat. So yeah, when you take it off, 4 blind rivets, 1, 2, 3 and 1 round the corner, and you use the side cutters to get them off, lifting them up. Okay, well, I've run out of fixings, so I must be quite close. Now when I took this off, you would have thought that these half-turn, well, quarter-turn fixings, they've got these on the back, would have to be used, but didn't seem to mind coming off without undoing those, which was a bit strange. And so we just sort of push up underneath there. This all goes underneath the cap, little clip there, and then the seal goes above it like that. And that's it. We're all back together. Thank goodness for that. Right, just a case of filling it back up again now. Right, we'll go through a quick précis of everything we've done, and we'll go through everything we need to do to change the washer pump. Go through each bit. It's just absolutely incredible the amount of stuff that has to come off. Right, so first of all, this comes off, that panel. Not quite sure what it's meant to clip into, because if you undo it here and lift it up over the seal, then it just pulls out. So that pulls out. This rubbery thing just lifts off. Oh, sorry, it's got a blind rivet here that holds the seal on at this end. Just looking at it, it's a weird thing, isn't it? Okay, so it's got something there that straps underneath there. Makes a bit more sense. Right, okay, so replacing the washer pump, let's go through everything we need to remove and just do a précis of everything. Right, first thing comes off is this cover. I found that we just need to lift it up here, pull it backwards and it's off. It does actually have 3 quarter turn fixings, but they don't seem to do any good at all. Next, this rubber bit comes off. It just pulls off here, and is held on by a single blind rivet here. And this needs to come off, 3 blind rivets. That will lift off, and then we get to the reservoir cap. That's held on by a single Torx, well, it's a Phillips. It is actually a blind rivet, but if you turn it anti-clockwise, it comes undone. Takes the washer with it. And then what you can do is you can lift this end of it and it'll come out of the clip at the back. Obviously a lot easier to see without all this stuff in the way. Then what we do is twiddle this off here. So this is then detached from the filler pipe. Okay, so that's just about all you need to do from the top surface. Apart from threading this filler pipe through the bracketry, because there's some bracketry in here which gets in the way. And from here we can actually see the tank, and we can see the way that this pipe is guided through it with a little plastic guide and all the rest of it. And we can see the fixing for it here. Try and focus you in on that. Yeah, there's a fixing for it there which is done from underneath. Okay, and you would have thought at that point it's quite easy. No, it's not, because unfortunately then all the wheel liners have to come off. Obviously the wheel has to come off first, and there are a lot of fixings. There's 14 on the back, and I think there was 10 on the front. Go around all of those. And then, oh yeah, and of course the blind rivets here, and you've got to poke those through and then retrieve the stalks afterwards or use new ones. So yeah, 14 fixings on this side of various types. Plastic nut, metal bolt 8mm, captive washer. And then there's a couple of Torx as well, just to mix it up a bit. So yeah, both wheel arches off. So the front wheel arch comes off first, so wheel arch liner comes off first, then the back one, and then we can get to the tank, and then it's not too hard with the wheel off and to lean it forwards, and then getting it back in isn't quite so easy. Rightio, that's the précis of that. Not a job I'd like to do again, to be honest. It does seem to be sort of quite a rigmarole just for doing that. But there we go. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And thanks for all the comments. Keep them coming. I like answering them. And I'll see you soon.